I am now on day 16 of 100, and today I wanted, yesterday I talked about that gift of being that we give ourselves, of just sitting with ourselves and being with whatever comes up, and then giving that gift to others. And so I wanted that to really be the focus of my practice today. And I wanted as little input as possible, sensory input. Also, I didn't want to, I guess, have any intention about connecting with my spirit guides, or, talking to God, or grounding myself, anything. I just wanted to be with myself. So I wore my little baby's Ottaroo, which is like a floaty for your head. You just wear it around your neck, and it's got a place for your chin to rest, and you just float. And so I went in the pool with the Ottaroo on, and I just completely submerged myself, and it was just a little floating head, which disturbed my dog entirely, and she was very concerned about my safety, and she had to jump in and save me. But it was really fascinating. I mean, it's the closest that I guess I could get to a sensory deprivation chamber here at home. And just, I felt like I became my breath. There was no point where my breath began and ended, and where I began and ended. And as I was, my arms are just floating freely, and I'd move my fingers, and I didn't feel like I was in the water. So I just was floating in empty space. It was really great. The only time that there would be any movement was every time I would breathe. I would just rise and fall with my breath, like my body would rise and fall so subtly in the water with my breath. And so there was this great connection that, with my breath, where I felt like that is what I was. I couldn't feel my body unless I brought attention and awareness to it by moving it in some way. But even then, I couldn't feel my body moving in space. So that was pretty wild. I stayed in the pool for probably about 30 minutes. I did get cold eventually, and I could very much feel my body, and it was becoming distracting. So, which is fine. At some point though, before I got out, I tucked my knees up into a ball, so I was just hugging my legs up close to me like this. I'm still in my Ottaroo, floating away, and that was a completely different experience, because it was just the tips of my toes were the only thing touching the bottom of the pool. And so when I did that, there was not, I was floating in free space completely. And when I would breathe, instead of this gentle rise and fall, it was more of this like swinging of my body, and it just felt a little like more active. It was a neat experience, but it almost made me nauseous. So that's interesting too. It was almost like too much motion. So I did get out, and I just finished the rest of my practice sitting in the sun, warming up and drying out. So when I did open my eyes, which for the most part my face was facing the sun, and so it was just brightness. There wasn't a whole lot of changing. There's no trees around the pool, and so there was no like shadows dancing. And so the brightness was there, but it wasn't something that was like distracting. I felt like it was some limited amount of input. So I opened my eyes, and this tiny, Oh, it's so tiny. Look how tiny, but perfect feather. And something I noticed about being in the water was that my body was weightless, and my breath then became, it was almost like the heaviest part of me. I think part because, you know, my head's up in this Ottaroo. No offense to the Ottaroos. I love the Ottaroo. But it's not made for adults, so. But you know, like my neck is up in this way that maybe isn't the best for my breathing. And I had, I guess, the weight of the water on my lungs. I mean, it's not like it was hard to breathe, but I felt it. And when I came out and sat in the sun, my breathing felt so light. But I then had the weight of my body, which I did not have in the water. So my breath was so light and easy. And I still felt that, like, I guess because I just had this sensation, I was able to reconnect to that quite easily. But there was this like heaviness about me, but not in like a weighty sort of way, but just, I guess I just felt very earthly and grounded and very much, it was kind of this a beautiful balance of this lightness of spirit, this lightness of breath that is connecting me, but then this body that is grounded. And it's so funny because when I say heavy and weighted, and it has such negative connotations, and I don't want it to, and I'm not sure what word to use. I mean, that's just the word that's coming to me, and I'm only resistant to that because of the connotations that our culture puts on that with bodies, particularly female bodies. But it's a good feeling of like having a body, of being in it. And a little context to this, my practice was all day. I was at times overwhelmed in like a stressful way, but also sometimes overwhelmed with excitement all day. There's just so much. There's so many ideas. There's so many wonderful things going on. And not just with the farm and the programs I'm doing, and some really awesome things that I'm working on, but these activities that and like routines that I'm doing with the kids. I don't say routine, but like, you know, we have these special dates planned, and I was feeling like it was all too much. I was feeling overwhelmed with it. And I knew what I needed to do was to sit and meditate. But I really had my heart set on doing this kind of sensory deprivation experience in the water, and it just seemed like every time I recognize like there's so much to do, what I need to do is do nothing. It was like someone needed fed and the diaper needed changed. It was just like the day got away from me, which is interesting. But like, this is the experience that I've been needing all day. Just this. When there's so much to do, what I need to do is sit and be still. And it was beautiful. Like, this is exactly what I needed. It always is. It always is. How fun is that? And I love my feather, my tiny feather. Oh, it's not, I don't know, I feel like it's not, I feel like it's blurry, but it's just so tiny and perfect. So perfect. Beautiful.